Good morning to you, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here in Los Angeles, United States. February 21st, 2021, a series of talks in support of Burma, Myanmar's civil disobedience movement escalating as we speak. Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot that we can do, the least of which is to forward and share, I beg of you, this video wherever you can, as frequently as you can, in support of the 54 million people in Burma at this very moment, giving everything they've got, their heart, their soul, their blood, their family, their future for democracy, for human rights, the immediate release of Aung San Suu Kyi, Burma's state councilor and Nobel Peace Laureate, the President U Win Myint, the chief head of the political party, my very beloved friend U Win Taint, 500 leaders, others detained or incarcerated, and a country at this moment, an entire country held hostage by a terrorist organization known as the Thamada in Burmese, Burma's Taliban, run by Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, the equivalent today of a military bin Laden. He has lost it fully on the world stage, and it is our duty to intervene on every level that we can to support the people of Myanmar, to support democracy, to support universal human rights, and the future of freedom. Thank you for tuning in. From my heart to yours. Not easy to wake up every day and see murder, injury, terror in the beloved land of Burma. But yet again, the 33rd Light Infantry Unit, taken from the Rakhine State, notoriously known as the head of the clearance operation in 2017, and the unrelenting massacre of the Rohingya. They are now unleashed on their own people in Mandalay. It has been clearly identified, a horror beyond horror. What can we do? I'm thinking, what would I do if I'm in the mind and the body of a world leader, the Secretary General of the United Nations, President Biden, Prime Minister Trudeau? What would I do waking up today? Well, I'm Alan Clements. I'm doing what I can, and I have a 3-point action plan, 1 for the United States President, 2 for the United Nations, and 3 for artists worldwide to rise up in an intervention, not just in support, an intervention. I'm thinking World War II. Are we in World War III now? World War II, America, Britain, came to the support of democracy and freedom and the people of Burma in the 40s to confront the Japanese fascist military organization on the ground in Burma. This was after 135 years of British imperialistic occupation of Burma and 2 wars. The people of Burma, a sovereign nation in South Asia, like Tibet, wanting to live and breathe in the sanctity of peace and freedom. World War II. They bombed the cities of Mandalay and Rangoon. Soldiers were deployed. I know some of them. And they fought often in hand-to-hand combat. We know the horrors of World War II. But America and England stood up. Is it the same type of threat today? I would argue, and I'm going to, that it's more of a dangerous moment today in world history than then. Winston Churchill screamed at the top of his lungs in England, "Look out for this guy, Adolf Hitler." People vilified him equally as they did Donald Trump. He continued, the vilification continued. 11 million people exterminated at the hands of this man, Hitler. Right now, the same thing could occur in Burma. How and why? It's a global problem. China. Premier Xi Jinping, clearly in his behavior, just simply looking at his behavior, the decimation of democracy in Hong Kong, the ongoing persecution and decimation of the people of Tibet. It didn't happen back in 1950. It is continuing. Look up Patrick Moynihan's daughter's work on Tibet, an absolute savant in understanding the details of the ongoing decimation of the Tibetan people at this very moment. Why would girls and boys and nuns and monks set themselves on fire in Tibet to draw attention that no one's watching to the ongoing humiliation, slavery, rape, and persecution of their own people? Why would people do that? Very much like the Vietnamese monk in Vietnam in 65 and 66 and 67, who lit themselves on fire and lit the world's conscience on fire. Burma right now could very well be the next Tibet. Why? China is on a march. It is absolutely clear for those who watch and study the details that China wants global domination. In an unrestricted war, it's not just nukes, it's not just rifles and missiles and ships. It's through quantum computing, it's through information, it's through money, it's through slavery, it's through coercion, it's through weapons. The military Thamada in Burma, the terrorist organization, they would be useless without weapons. Sanctions are one thing. Restricting their money, they can't vacation, blah, 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 blah. They're laughing at you. It's the guns, it's the planes, it's the weapons, it's the helicopter gunships, it's the maintenance. China, Russia, Ukraine, Turkey, and Israel, 5 countries, must cease. America, Australia, Canada, the EU, get on it. Sanctions are one thing. Get in the face of Mr. Putin and Premier Xi Jinping and say, cut. We are drawing a red line. Sanctions are bullshit. Restricting money is nonsense. Non-vacation on our property is ridiculously humiliating. President Biden, you have a chance to show up ethically for the very principle of why you're a president, to uphold democracy, freedom, conscience. Get rid of all those soldiers surrounding the White House and the Capitol in Washington. It's humiliating to our military. It's humiliating to you. We have 2 attack aircraft groups in the South China Sea right now. I'm going to get into those actions in a second. But right now, we must understand a clear and ever-present, escalating, dangerous moment, a critical moment in human history. China is on the march. Have we not noticed? Economically. Look at all the fentanyl in the world today. It comes exclusively from Mr. Xi Jinping. Think of the horrors of that coming across the border from Mexico right now, from within other countries all throughout the world. Thank you, China. Think of the oil that they're making off of Burma, off the Bay of Bengal, the gas pipelines, the cheap slave labor. The Chinese treat their own people and other people like livestock. They're only good as slaves to make things to sell to the world as cheaply as possible. Yes, it was kind of cool to go back into the Paris Accord, Mr. Biden, but have we not noticed that China is making more coal plants than all countries worldwide with less emissions control? And it's useless. And we say nothing in what they do. We have a supplicating position to Xi Jinping, and he knows it. It strikes me, Mr. Biden, that you're right in there with King Claus from the Davos Great Reset, that your mind is driven by the primacy of profit and privilege and power. Stop, cease. Burma is on the horizon. We are entering the possibility of a new world war, an unrestricted war. Why does China keep investing in our electricity grid? It's absolutely clear from intel, and you know it as well as I do, that if our electricity grid in America went down for 1 year, 90%, it said, of Americans would die. And yet you keep buying turbine generators from China? Could there be something wrong with that behavior when they have a genocidal history and the occupation of Tibet and the decimation of democracy in Hong Kong? Get it right, Mr. Biden. Don't be a figurehead of Davos. Don't be a figurehead of the oligarchs in Silicon Valley. Do not be a figurehead of Wall Street. Those days are over. Burma is standing up nationwide today. They are taken to the streets in the great new revolution of the heart, non-violently. Daw Aung San Suu Kyi is behind bars. The president is behind bars. It's being occupied by a proxy terrorist organization of China. Why do I say that? They may be Burmese, but they have a border with China. And how they stand in power is because you, sir, allow them to get weapons from Xi Jinping and Putin. Immediate action must be done. Right now, worldwide leaders, I beg of you, come on board. Not just talk about, an arms embargo from these countries. Draw a line in the sand. Burma could be the entry to World War III. No one back in the day saw that World War II began in Bosnia-Herzegovina with a little known fact of someone being shot at close range. And look what happened. No one could even pronounce the words Bosnia, Herzegovina, Yugoslavia. Let us not be glib about repeating history. Let's get it right. Why do we even have a military force if it's not going to stand deeply immersed in conscience, in civility, in peace elevation, in democracy? We are a global family today. We know that. Burma is our sister. We stand up. Amber Alert, 9/11, terrorist organization occupying the people, shooting them at close range. An army that I repeatedly spoke out in 1988, 89, and 1990. I am nobody. But I went into that country when it was closed, and I saw for myself the persecution up close of people. I met the 88 generation in the jungles of Burma. Many of them stood in nonviolence, and many of them took up weapons. And boy, I'll tell you, I understood very, very, very well the power of the gun, because I saw a genocide by that very same army right now that did the Rakhine State massacres, that they're massacring their own people. They had this dark joke in Yugoslavia during the war. You kill one person, capital punishment, likely execution, electric chair. A serial killer takes out 10, 20, 30, pleads insanity with a good lawyer, life imprisonment. Commit ethnic cleansing or genocide, you're invited to The Hague, wined and dined and talked to about how to negotiate peace. Sick. This is beyond negotiation. We need something so strong that we are taking decisive action on behalf of our very principles of why we consider ourselves the leading democracy in the world. It's not by name and commerce and by the prowess of Wall Street and tech titans. It's because we have conscience, we have dignity, and we stand up for our friends of freedom. Burma is our sister. Amber Alert. 9/11. Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel laureate, leading her people. We got it wrong. It's obvious. They assassinated her lawyer, a Muslim trying to get the Constitution changed. I know her really well. I spent 6 months with her, and I saw her many other times after that. She is a remarkable human being dedicated to peace. Few people understand the power of what nonviolence looks like in the face of a sociopathic dictatorship. How do you erase the stripes of a tiger and train them to be vegetarian? That was her role. It was difficult. Otherwise, you take up a Malcolm X position and you use fire with fire, but that's not her style, because what's happened is an example of what you do trying to fight might with might. It may look good, it may seem right, but it's not the right thing for the future of the world or for the country. But when people who we love need support, President Biden, this is your time for high redemption. United Nations Security Council, United Nations Secretary. Time to act. ACT, yes, passionate. People's lives are at stake. People are dying. These are our family. There's only 7.8 billion humans on the planet. Our family. This is our family, our sisters, our brothers, our uncles. It's the future of life. I am putting on the table to you, Mr. Biden, that we could be entering, very likely, World War III. It's not going to look like World War II or World War I. And both my parents were veterans of World War II. My grandfather, a veteran of World War I. I've been to Vietnam. I've looked at the carnage of what we did in a wrongful war. I have seen from my own observations the horrors of Iraq and Afghanistan. Look at how we got it wrong. Get it right, Mr. Biden. Everyone near you in your domain must get in your heart, in your ear, and awaken you to the revolution of conscience, made real on the template of action. Let me get into those actions. We've got the 2 aircraft command attack units in the South China Sea. You're standing up to Premier Xi Jinping, although I listened to your town hall question and answer with Anderson Cooper on CNN, and it looks like to me you're just supplicating. And I hate to say it, Mr. Biden, but I would say it to your face. It sounds like you're in the pocket of money, making decisions on the pocket of money, following the money, following Davos, following the oligarchs of Wall Street, following the corporations, following the weapons industry, following the votes for your next election, Where are you? Where's your Churchill? What are you going to do to become unpopular? This is a moment to become radically unpopular. You have a gift in your hand to take world leadership. Burma is the greatest birth of democracy in the world, with the most remarkable culture, from my humble opinion, and we have a chance to stand up. Send the Nimitz, or the Theodore Roosevelt Attack Aircraft Group, to the Andaman Sea immediately. I can guarantee you, if this tape were played to those crews on those attack aircraft carriers just drifting, playing video games on their phones, knowing that it's just an idle waste of taxpayers' money just driving up and down the straits of the South China Sea. Give them a reason to believe why they're military. Democracy is at stake and we can make a difference. Bring those aircraft group people with those 64 F-18 Hornet jets and park it right in the Sea of the Andaman Sea and say, hey, listen, Taliban of Burma, Senior General Ming Online, U Tan Shui, I know you're very much in control of this situation. And there's about a handful of, 50 men up in Naypyidaw. The rest of them would bail in a second if America came on board. They would run into the hands of freedom because they know what they do is wrong, but it's a culture of obedience, especially when you're in a terrorist organization, that if you don't behave, you're dead. I have interviewed captured Burmese soldiers. I understand the culture well, sir. There's no one who could give you better advice than myself. I speak the language. I've lived in the country. I was a monk in the country. I was trained by some of the monks in the country. I spent a lot of time with Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. I know all of her mentors, all of her colleagues, all of her teachers. It's one of the greatest revolutions of the modern era, and the people of Burma are speaking. Pause, Alan. January 6th in America. At that time, President Trump was speaking to the people gathered in Washington, D.C., his MAGA followers. I listened to the speech. He spoke his mind. He spoke his conscience. He told the people, and let's march peacefully to the Capitol. Say what you want. What I would say if I were in his heart and mind the night before, Alan, what would you do differently? I would say, sir, peaceful protest is protected under our Constitution. Everyone knows that. Violence, err on the side of an action that blows the mind of our elected leaders, blows the mind of people around the world, blows the mind of everyone who doubts your character. Have a sit down. Do your Gandhi. Do your Aung San Suu Kyi. Cease the need to protest in the way that protest is done. Yes, it's cool. But simply sit down and mindfully meditate with thoughts of care, of compassion, of love, of unity, the revolution of the human heart, and surround those lawmakers doing their job as well as they possibly can so that you could have another day in the life of trying to understand your position of the irregularities and the so-called fraudulence of the election. But no, you didn't have that type of mindful spiritual intelligence or emotional intelligence. In Burma, today they're going on strike. I can't suggest what people should do, but I can tell you, there are a lot of people in the military in Burma. There's a lot of people in the police force. As obedient as they are, they're human beings. Make the freedom movement this time so irresistible that it dissolves as much as humanly possible. And I know this from being a meditator in Burma. You could have hardcore people come in and they just simply sit and occupy consciousness with mindful heart, the courage to look at things that are necessarily not pleasant, and just to F-E-E-L, feel. Mindfulness is a synonym for morally courageous feeling of the intimacy of your own being. Give peace a chance. Imagine if we had a sit down. Gandhi changed India by simply asking people to stop work and walked to the sea and held that handful of salt to the sky. He fasted. What would be our equivalent in Burma today that inspires the Generation Z, the old, the young, that touches the heart of the so-called enemy, the Thamada, touches the heart of the police and the military with conscious action? Sit down, practice your bhavana, practice your metta, practice your prayer, practice your song, your poetry, your music, your silence, your love, your compassion. I remember being out in the jungles of Burma in 1989, in Menapla, and I met many of the 88 generation. One of my dear friends who passed away, Ma Thet Thet Luen, I asked her one night, have you ever been in love? And there were gunfire all around, and people were playing guitars of love songs, and there was malaria, and people were hungry and starving. Some were eating rats. It was horrific. It was apocalyptic. But these boys and girls were from the 88 generation, and they believed, just like Gen Z in Burma today, they believe. And I asked her, have you ever been in love? She said, Alan, I am in love. My fiance and I were in Taunji, and the soldiers came out. It was our first day of marching. We had never known freedom under dictatorship, and we knelt down, my parents and my friends, my uncles and aunts, hundreds of them, and looked at those soldiers. Some of them we even knew, and they had orders to kneel. And we said, you are our brothers, and come to our side. All we want is freedom. And they had orders to shoot, and they shot. Welcome to Burma. She said, Alan, I've never dared to go home, contact my fiancé, but if I die and it serves freedom, I will die in love. That was 1990, 30 years ago. She died. New generations have come. The Thamada is controlled by the same dictatorial consciousness, and right now, it's a revolution of heart, art, creativity. Give those police, give Senior General Ming Online, U Tan Shui, those regional commanders, those 33 from the light infantry from Rakhine, the hardened so-called killers, make them question their behavior. Look at them, hands clasped in prayer, in metta, in silence. Sit down, stop working for the totalitarian Thamada, the Taliban of Burma. Bring it to a screeching halt. Let's remember Mahatma Gandhi